The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the producer and those appearing in this show and do not necessarily represent the views of DerryCAM, the town of Derry, or any of its staff or affiliates.
Hi, I'm Anthony Henry. Welcome back to America's Ass. We are on episode 15. Summer's slowly winding down. We're in the middle of August. Back to school soon. I'm not excited, but something to do. At least I get some human interaction. I'm not sitting at home watching TV. I sweared. So anyway, today our guest is Mr. James Thibault. That's how you say it, right?
Thibault.
Thibault. So take a minute to tell the audience about yourself.
Hi, my name is James Thibault. I'm the chairman of the New Hampshire Legislative Youth Advisory Council, and I'm also a member of the Governor's Youth Advisory Council on Substance Misuse and Prevention. And I recently participated in the American Legion's Boys State and Boys Nation programs. I'm very passionate about youth civic involvement and trying to increase that, especially among young conservatives in the state of New Hampshire.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Of course.
I know it was a long drive.
That's all right. Never stopped me before.
It's worth it. This show's
Absolutely.
awesome. We've been doing really good lately. So anyway, absolutely the big topic of the day. Last night, Trump got his fourth indictment, number 4. This time it's in Fulton County, Georgia, and it mostly revolves around what some would say would be a shady call. I don't know if we would, but some are saying it's a shady call with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, where he allegedly, that's what they're saying, called him and asked him to find some votes. And if you add up all the years of jail time that Trump could possibly do with 4 indictments, it is now 727 and a half years, plus the death penalty is in play.
I'm sorry.
I'm laughing too. Death penalty.
What the hell?
Yeah. Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, is also implicated in this, as is Trump's lawyer, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. So, what are your initial thoughts?
I think just like every other indictment, it's a sham touted by an overzealous prosecutor looking to win left-wing votes.
Yeah.
Put it simply.
Yeah. And as a former guest pointed out a couple episodes back, each one of these indictments has come right after something shady about the Biden family has come out.
Absolutely. What was it this time? It was more Hunter Biden stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I didn't even catch it this time.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. I just know that every other time it was either the document scandal or more Hunter Biden leaks or, whatever, what have you.
Yeah. And I've been making this comparison a lot, but we're in a banana republic.
Yeah.
Everyone's going after Trump on the Dem side because they, I think, are scared of him. I haven't really decided who I'm supporting in the primary yet. I like a lot of the candidates for their own reason. I think Trump has the best chance of winning. I think DeSantis has more electability than Trump, but he's kind of shooting himself in the foot a lot lately.
Yeah.
I like a lot of Tim Scott's policies, especially on the border. I like some of Nikki Haley's experience. I like Perry Johnson's economic plan. I think all of the Republican candidates are really good. But Trump has the best chance of winning. And all these left-wing prosecutors and people like Jack Smith and Fannie, I forget what her last name is, in Georgia from last night, and Alvin Bragg in New York City, of course, but they're all going after him because they realize he's actually a threat to the future Trump presidency, which is, we'll see what happens next year, but.
And I think as well, it's important to keep in mind that this is also a way for the Democrats to artificially rally support behind President Trump. So after every single indictment, there's been a spike in support among the Republican base for President Trump. Whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's for an individual to decide. But what that also does is it alienates support amongst more moderate voters and independents who might not who might see that and don't realize how much of a sham it is, and then lose support for him, and then drift into the Biden camp or drift into just not wanting to vote, which we can support for whoever the Republican nominee, which will probably be Trump in the general election. So if Trump becomes the nominee, that lessens the chance of a Republican win in November.
Yeah, and as I said, there's some candidates that are more electable than Trump, but Trump still has the best chance of winning.
Yeah,
just because he was a former president.
absolutely. But I think that the electability argument when it comes to Governor DeSantis is kind of weakening because his percentage in the polls is dropping so dramatically.
It is.
Like, it kind of makes you question, like, why that would be if he's supposed to be so much more electable than President Trump. And we see people like Vivek Ramaswamy, he's surging in the polls. Like, he was a nobody at the beginning of this campaign, but now he's surpassing DeSantis in some polls.
Yeah.
And, after meeting the guy, he's very well-spoken, he's very knowledgeable, and he actually seems to want to get stuff done. So I think that there's going to be a lot more appeal for that sort of politics, and he's not a politician, so I think that's appealing as well when we get closer to the first-in-the-nation primary.
Yeah, and I didn't mention Vivek because we talked so much about him on episode 13, but yeah, he was just a businessman, a successful one, who was a relative nobody in politics, but his grassroots support has just shot him up to the point where in some polls he's second place ahead of DeSantis, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, I met him on Sunday, and it was at Ambassador Scott Brown's barbecue down in Rye, and there were cars like packed in every adjacent parking lot and lined up all the way down the street, like to the exit. It was absolutely insane. It was so hard to get close. I was amazed. I got a photo with him before it started pouring, but it just shows how much support, especially in New Hampshire, there is for that kind of politics.
Yeah.
And that's something I noticed about him. He doesn't treat the voter like the voter is stupid. He appeals to our intellect, and he appeals to our ability to actually think for ourselves. And he especially respects that in New Hampshire because we are so politically inclined, and we have that first-in-the-nation primary. And that just emphasizes how important our state is in our electoral system.
And to give you an idea on how much traction he's getting, he was supposed to do something in Derry yesterday, but he had to cancel simply because of media.
Yeah.
They were afraid they wouldn't have enough room for media and people.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. And one more thing regarding the Trump indictment, the sheriff of Fulton County has said that Trump will come in for a mugshot.
Oh boy. That's just PR. That really is.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I remember Greg Gutfeld, like a week or two back, said that if this mugshot happens, it will probably be the highest selling T-shirt ever.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
I'll buy one. I think that's a shirt Republicans and Democrats can buy. The Dems will buy it to make fun of Trump. The Republicans will buy it to show the stupidity.
I can also imagine the memeability of that already.
Yeah.
That'll go wild.
Yeah.
But it's so incredibly ridiculous because there's absolutely no need for it. I mean, it's bad enough that we have the court reporters and the illustrators and all that. Like, we get it. We don't need it emphasized anymore. It's clearly just to drag him through the mud even further.
Yeah. Anyway, switching topics. Smaller topic. We'll spend like a couple minutes on this, but there was recently a song that came out last week called Men North of Richmond by Oliver Anthony, I think his name was. He was some nobody that lived like way out in the woods of West Virginia or Virginia, something like that. And he made this actual country song. It's not whatever, like, Tim McGraw. What's some other country? I don't listen to country.
Neither do I.
But whatever you hear on the country radio.
Not Johnny Cash, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, Cash was a good one.
Yeah.
But it didn't sound like modern country. It was just a man outside with a guitar.
Yeah.
No special effects, no nothing. And he was singing about how corrupt people in Washington, on both sides and in all aspects, I guess, bureaucracy, Congress, Supreme Court, executive branch, whatever, how they're all just destroying the lives of the middle class.
Not wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe barring the majority on the Supreme Court, because they've been cranking out hit after hit lately, but certainly in regards to the Democrat and Republican establishment, because the Democrats, they're trying to ruin people's lives, both economically and socially, but the Republicans are not doing much to stop it, and electorally speaking, they're not doing much in the way of actually wanting to win elections. So they seem to want to govern as a minority so they can place all the blame onto the Democrats rather than actually putting in the effort to win elections and become the majority party and actually get policy through.
Yeah. And regarding the destruction of the middle class, that's something that Trump has been talking about lately,
Yeah.
I've noticed. Correlation there, I don't know. But I think that's very important on economic issues. And I think that's the reason it shot up in the charts so quickly. Because this was a guy that had a YouTube channel that had maybe 100 subscribers. They'd get a few hundred views per video. And this got like a few million views in a few days.
Yeah.
Because this message resonated with regular people who aren't rich. They're just middle class people. And yeah, just normal people, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that a lot of people in Hollywood and in these cultural centers don't understand. They don't understand how to resonate with people anymore.
Yeah.
They just want to crank out whatever they think will be the most profitable, and that leads to what actually ends up not being so profitable. I mean, lately we've been seeing leaked pictures and interviews from the new Snow White movie, for example, and that just hurts to see, and people don't like it. It's destroying a classic story, a classic symbol of Americanism. I mean, it is literally the first ever feature-length animated film, and they're turning it into like
One dwarf and seven.
San Francisco
One dwarf
homeless
and
people.
6 regular-sized people.
I would say they're not even regular people. They're San Francisco homeless vagrants. Have you? I mean,
I've seen the photo.
yes,
Yeah.
but it's insane. And then you have the lead actress going out and bashing the original story. It shows that these people in power, these people in places of major cultural significance, don't actually give a damn about what the people want to see or even understand what the people want to see.
Yeah. And again, that's why this song shot up so quickly and why so many people on all sides of the country can resonate with it. And I've never done this on the show before, but I'm actually going to link the video for this in the description so you guys can actually watch it, because it's what music is supposed to sound like, in my opinion.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it, but I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, well, check the link in the description. So anyway, third topic, this will be another kind of small topic. It's just something I noticed while scrolling through the interwebs. In Massachusetts, which is one of the most liberal states in the country, they declined a Massachusetts couple who was Catholic the ability to adopt.
Yeah.
And they had really no reason to.
Yeah, I mean, speaking as a Catholic myself, it's disgusting to see.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, it's a flagrant violation of our religious liberty, and it would be scary to see if this were to expand. And it was all because the Massachusetts government was afraid that the Catholic faith did not align with, let's be real here, the faith of the state, which is secularism and this LGBT alphabet mafia agenda. It's really sad to see. And, you know, there's been a long history of Catholic oppression in the United States, and it's really sad. Typically, it's been from the Protestant majority, though. And typically, it's been also, I guess you could say racial in terms of like Italian and Irish discrimination in the early 19th century, or the early 20th century, rather. But now it's become more widespread in terms of just general religious oppression. So instead of specifically Protestants against Catholics, it's now the secularists against all religious people. So I think it's very important that more people are able to put that into perspective and see that. So rather than bickering about tiny theological squabbles that we might disagree on. We should come together as a religious community and say the real threat here is the secularists and that evil, sinful philosophy, and that we should all band together to be able to fight that instead of fighting each other.
Yeah, and I remember when I sent this to you, first thing you said was, that's a direct violation of the First Amendment.
Yes,
Which it is.
absolutely.
Yeah. Right to have a religion, free speech.
Yep.
Yeah. And in my opinion, I remember like way back in the show's history, dating back to episode 2, when we had Representative David Love here. We were talking about pro-life issues, and I remember I asked him, why is the adoption industry not so, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? So big. Why are people not adopting much? And I remember the answer he gave me was because of the abortion lobby.
Yeah.
They're influencing all these adoption places so they can stay small. They're putting their money in so people abort more. And seeing that most, not all, but most Catholics tend to be pro-life, you gotta wonder.
Well, I would disagree with that point there. If you're not pro-life, you're not Catholic. It's a fundamental teaching of the church.
Well, you do have those Joe Bidens and Nancy Pelosi's.
Yeah, but they're not actually Catholic. Let's be real here.
Yeah, I agree, but
Just
we'll be a little nice and say
you
what
can call a horse a fish, but that doesn't make it a fish.
I agree. I agree. But yeah, Catholics tend to be more pro-life. And you got to wonder, is there a connection there? What do you think?
Sorry, what's the question?
So most Catholics tend to be more on the pro-life side. And if the adoption industry is being, I guess, suppressed by the abortion lobby, do you think there's a connection with what happened here in Massachusetts? Do you think the abortion industry is like, because Massachusetts is very much a pro-choice state.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a connection?
Yeah, I think there absolutely is. I mean, these politicians that enforce these laws and they create these laws, they're funded, they're bought and paid for by Planned Parenthood and these other pro-abortion agencies. And so they do that to keep these policies in place. And there's so many policies that could be done to increase adoption rates, make it less expensive, make it so there's less regulation there, because for every child put up for adoption, there's 33 couples looking to adopt. But the issue is that a lot of these couples, they're more looking for babies. They're looking for newborn infants. But the difficulty is that there's so many more kids in the adoption system who are older, that are like maybe 5 to 10 or even 15. And these children don't get the same attention. They don't get adopted because the sad fact is that most parents, they want to raise their own kid. But when you have a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old, those parents can't really shape that child as much. And it's unfortunate to see, but it's a cultural aspect that needs to be shaped and molded through both a decrease in legislation and also through education, I think.
That's a good way of putting it. Anyway, we're out of topics, so now the rest of the episode is you. What are you doing on your end up at the State House?
Sure. I mean, we are currently in our off season for the Legislative Council. So we are in the middle of trying to recruit, and I'm very grateful that you applied. But we are looking to fill somewhere around 7 vacancies, I believe. But essentially what the council does is it's a statutory committee of the New Hampshire General Court, and it advises the legislature on policies that are very important to youth. And so these range from education to the environmental issues to social well-being and drug policy, that sort of thing. And we either write statements that go to the committees and go to the floor to encourage legislation to be either passed or failed, or we make actual recommendations to them of what sort of legislation we would like to see introduced for the following term. And 2 years ago, we were very successful in that. I believe we wrote 30 statements that ended up being adopted by the council and then sent to various people, various representatives and senators. This year, not so much. We met 3 times, and the statutory requirement is 4 times a year, so we did not meet our statutory obligation. And our chairman, our former chairman, he was completely MIA starting in like March or April, and we started with our first meeting of the council in February. So,
Wow.
yeah, he was not the greatest, and that is why we voted to remove him and replace him with me. And I've been working with Representative Jody Nelson of Derry to reinvigorate the council for the next year. So applications close September 30th, and we're hoping to have the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, the Governor, and the Secretary of State make their appointments to the council by the beginning of October, around there. So, yeah.
I will put the link for the application in the description also if anyone
Absolutely.
wants that.
Absolutely. And if you're looking for the RSA that found the council for more information, that would be RSA in 19K.
Yeah. And as he mentioned, I did apply. I don't know if I'm in yet. I'll know in about a month or 2.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a fun thing right up my alley. We need people. I remember you saying it was like 17-2 on Dem Republican last time.
Well, I would make the distinction that it's not partisan.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
it is, left wing to conservative, and that is now more like 14-1 because we've lost some people, but it's around there, yeah. But the difficulty is getting the message out there, and I think that's something that the Democrats have been a lot more able to do, especially among youth. So our former chairman, he was also the president of New Hampshire High School Democrats. And several of our other members were also members of New Hampshire High School Democrats. There's no real Republican equivalent of that. And it's very rare that I see people, young people, from the more conservative side, from the Republican side, getting involved in these activities, or because the activities aren't available. And that's, I think, a fatal flaw that the Republican Party needs to be able to address in the near future, is that we don't have these opportunities for young people to get involved. And it's almost like they either don't respect us or don't think that we're as important. And it's really unfortunate to see, because the Democrats are able to use their youth as a much stronger tool for both advocacy and for campaigning. Whereas there's less of a structure for us. We can get involved, but we have to be more self-advocating, I suppose. We have to go out to the people and make our voices heard as individuals rather than being able to join a group. So I think that's a big issue that we need to address.
I agree. The Republican Party has done a very, very bad job at appealing to the youth. Like, very bad.
Yes.
And if we don't start getting more involved, then we will the Republican Party will slowly die. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that it's an even split in New Hampshire for in high school, on the high school level.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, like Pinkerton Academy, where I go, I'd say it's pretty split, like maybe 60-40 Republican Democrat. That's partially because 6 towns go to Pinkerton, and all 6 towns are heavy red towns. Yeah. But that might not be the case in like Manchester or Keene or Nashua, a place like that.
And that's another interesting point you make there. A lot of our current members on LIAC are from the Nashua and Manchester area. They're from the more urban parts of our state.
Yeah.
And they are more left-wing. And so we have to get both that ideological diversity back, and we have to get that geographic diversity. And I know diversity carries like a negative connotation now, but we have to be able to get the kind of diversity that actually matters, not skin color, not sex or any of that nonsense, because in the end, those things don't matter. It's what you think that matters. And we have to be able to find those people so we can have actually robust discussions about policy, so we can recommend to the legislature exactly what the youth of the state really think. So we have to get people from Manchester, yes, and they may be more left-wing, and that's okay. But we also have to get people from the North Country who aren't really represented at the moment. And we have to get people from central New Hampshire, like me, who might be more conservative or whatever the case may be. But we have to have that geographic and ideological diversity.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's interesting because a lot of the swing parts of the state are in the middle of the state.
Yeah.
Places like Laconia.
Yep.
That's a real swing city.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you live near Laconia, Franklin.
Yeah,
So
around there.
sort of.
Around there, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we're just about out of time, so feel free to give a closing statement.
Sure. I mean, if any of you guys watching are in the 15 to 22 age range, high school student or college or even just working in the state after graduating high school, you can feel free to apply for the Legislative Youth Advisory Council. Applications are open until September 30th, and we'll be getting back on them shortly after that. The link will be in the description, as Anthony said, but it's a great opportunity for the youth of the state to get involved in policy and to learn more about our state legislature and to make more connections within the state legislature, if that's something you're interested in. And I'm very grateful that you were willing to have me on.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of
I had a
course.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
Great discussion. Anyway, I'm Anthony Henry. This has been America's Ass. Thank you for watching.